All right, so let's dip into some color here, man. Show me,
Yeah,
show
man.
me some of the magic. Show me the stuff you're passionate about. I'm really curious to see some of this stuff
Cool. Let
change
me
form right in front of my
transition
eyes.
back to this project.
So these are assets you're bringing in from something that you've been working on recently?
Yeah, so we just did a quick, it's pretty, it was a little side project my buddy did. He went back to visit his father in Kansas, and he's got all the toys. So he busted out. He's a DP by nature, starting to direct some big stuff. So
Okay.
this is just something he put together for fun.
You can tell the DP working when he's got his drone flying over at home, and he's ripping some of that real deep bokeh back there with that shallow depth on his dad,
That's right.
rocking that capital hat.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, so
Yeah.
let's see. So what's the first step when you dip into color? What do you look at first?
Sure. So there's two ways to bring that in. So like once you do bring it in, you can notch it yourself by hand cutting it up, which is totally fine, totally acceptable. To speed up the process, we always export an EDL. So, you'd render it out, ProRes 444, no color.
What is that? Define that for us.
An EDL.
Yeah.
So an EDL it's a edit decision list. It basically is just a text file. This text file here, let's find it real quick. So projects, source material, EDL. So if I open this thing up, can I open this? Let's do this. It just gives me all the time codes. So he had 0-hour time code starting on his timeline. And then everywhere the clip changes, everywhere this cut point enters,
Okay.
This list will give me that cut. So that way I don't have to go through and, thumb through it, by hand and then, control B or, use the blade tool to chop it up. What that would look like is if I were to take this and say, create a new timeline, and I create that timeline and I jump onto it, right? It's just a flat, there's no notches, there's no cut points.
Right.
Another way to do it, which is what we use, if I take this media, I'll copy it here. If I import that EDL as a preconformed, is this the right folder? It is. I'm going to give this 2 because the name already exists. It's asking me what I want to chop that against, and I want to say chop it against the media that's in bin 6. So then it'll find it, and now it has all the cut points already given.
Wow, look at that. Okay.
Right? So it speeds up the process of not having to prep the work too much. And
That's
what that does,
okay,
right? Pretty nice. So what that does then is it gives me, this clip, and then I can go to the next clip and so on and so forth, right? So it breaks it all up for me. The whole goal of this is that way then I have individual control of each shot, and I can apply a new grade entirely for that clip.
Okay. Now, when you say applying it to each clip, are you working with adjustment layers, or are you doing changes directly to the footage?
It's non-destructive, so your source material will still exist as is. Like if I said reveal in Finder, it's going to show it to me in log. So in this program, until you render it, you're just working in layers, if you will. They consider these nodes. Baselite does layers. Dakota does layers. These are all nodes. And what you can do, you can just keep adding on. I'm using Alt-S right there. If you want to do it by mouse, you say right-click, add node, add serial, so on.
Okay. Wow.
So these are just different types of tools to use for like a dailies process, right? So we go on set for Michael Bay, we download the footage, we pull it into a software like so, and the first thing that they want to do is they want to put just like a primary color correction on that. And what the primary color correction is it's these main tools here. So it's lift, gamma, gain. So it's your shadows.
Is this the default color platform when you click on color?
It is. Yep, it'll show just like this. It may not have the gallery up. It may look, here, let me see. Let me just reset it real quick. Reset UI. So this is what it'll look like.
This is what it looks like here. So you got curves, you got your color wheels. It looks a lot like Lumetri.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, exactly. Pretty friendly. Okay. So you have your scopes over here. And the way the scopes work is that this is pretty log. So you want your blacks to touch down at 0. You want your highlights to touch at the top. Right? So that's kind of a good starting spot.
Okay.
From there, you're just going to do, you'll just add in the contrast. So I'm just lowering the shadows there. I'm going to open up my highlights, the gain. So I'm going to just open all the way up.
Boom,
From
look
there,
at
I'm going
that.
to massage in the midtones. So start massaging in midtones. And then, you kind of want to just bring a little life to it. So you just kind of start popping the saturation. Right?
And that's a click and drag move?
It is. I have a color panel to speed things up. I don't know if you can see that. I have a color panel here.
Oh, so it's like a breakout box of somehow that
Everything's mapped. This is a smaller version of that. It's a smaller version of like the big panel that we do have. Maybe I already have it up. Let's see. Do I have products here? If I go to products, the way you can see what this would look like. Hold on, let me jump over.
Okay, so this is an interface box that allows you to, a panel that allows you, I see.
Right, so we at the facility we have these in every single bay, so everything's mapped. You can start off with something simple, which still packs a lot of features in there, but all the knobs, all the control wheels, everything maps to the software.
Wow, okay.
It speeds up the process, right? So instead of doing everything by mouse,
oh my gosh, what an upsell!
Yeah.
And you love it too, all right? You need that because you probably can't live without those things. You got to have them if you're going to do this. It works so much faster, right? It's like that. It's like that Mac mouse where you can right scroll and you're touching everything. Everything's super perfect right there in your fingers. Whereas if you use a normal mouse, it's just too difficult.
Exactly.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so you just hit the saturation a little bit. That's where you left off, I think.
Right. So just, bring down the shadows, bring up the highlights, start to massage in the midtones there to kind of just create a little bit more contrast. And then from here, it's all creative. The color is so subjective. It's whatever you like.
So there's nothing that you are looking at. You're not looking at the scopes and saying our reds have to expand as far up and down as we can. Our greens need to be 3/4, blues right above half.
Yeah, it's all in kind of how he shot. You kind of want to embrace what the photography was. Okay. So there's color correction where you're color correcting it as far as like it was shot too warm and we need to cool it off, and then we just need to get shots to match. And then there's color grading where it was shot a very particular way, and then you're just sweetening it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great definition because I did look that up before, and I've been aware of that, but I wanted to know specifically why. Because we say, okay, have you color corrected it? Well, yes. Well, have you graded it? Well, it's two different things. It's two different processes. And people will ask me that. Well, are you gonna grade it? I said, well, we shot it pretty well. And I remember a conversation with you before I went into this last feature film that we're getting ready to jump into the color with, right? And we talked about shooting on the Sony FS5, and you said definitely get in picture profile 10 because that's where the S-Log3 is. Okay, and that's the log. That's where you're getting this high dynamic range you're talking about, where you really have some space on it. And we were talking about how, okay, well, a lot of it's at night, a lot of it's cold. And we said, okay, well, let's put a little bit of blue on the lights in the shot so we don't have, now that's shooting it in the correct manner, right? So then you're just grading it at that point. You don't have to add blue to something that doesn't have blue in it at all.
Exactly. That's the big key. A lot of people try to use the phrase, fix it in post. And we're like, keep it as simple as possible on set. Just set up the exposure on the camera correct, light it correct it, frame it correctly, get everything in focus that you need. And then you should be using post to just, put a beauty pass on it, if you will. You just want to
put a frame around it, right?
Exactly.
So I think for the sake of people watching this, the idea is if you've put color on it already through lighting, set design, all the things that you want as far as the color wheel in your film, then when you get to color, you're grading. If you haven't done that stuff and you get to color and you want to reach that stuff, you're correcting first and then grading.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
It's always like we just call it like a balance pass. We're like, someone's got to go through this whole thing and just get the shots feeling consistent. And then from there, they'll be like, okay, now let's start putting looks onto it. Now let's start sweetening it. Let's put some power windows and things. I'll show you what some of that stuff looks like.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
So you have your lift, gamma, gain, saturation. Those are like, if you went to onset anything and you're going to do something onset, you know, with the DP and Video Village, and they're like, yo, what would this look like? Just quick, down, and dirty. Those are the tools you're using. So we'll do lift, gamma, gain, saturation, kind of tighten it up. And you can really start. I'm just going to use the panels real quick so you can kind of see what this shot would look like if I just did something quick, right? You can really start to open it up and then just pumping a little bit of life to it, right? So real quickly, they're like, oh, okay, that's kind of an idea of what we would do with the footage, you know? From here, people would say like, no, I want that green grass, you know, less yellowy autumn feel, and I want it to feel more like the middle of the forest, right? So from here, everything after this lift, gamma, gain, saturation is considered a secondary. So what you can do is, I'm just using Alt-S. A way to do it by mouse is add node, and then just say serial node. And that'll create a new node for you. You can qualify. This is a super powerful tool. What this looks like is you take this little dropper, and you click the dropper, and you can see that it did a selection here, but you can't actually see it here. What that is you hit the little highlight button, and now you can start getting a little bit more specific with what you want to grab colors of. So the truck is somewhere around here. I can grab just the truck. I can go in and just grab the grass all by itself. I can move up here to the skies and just get skies.
Look how easy it collected that whole sky.
If you shoot with a camera that has like the bit depth, that's why I was pointing out the 12-bit, you know, the 12-bit depth at the beginning and so on. You want to get a camera that has, you know, a high bit depth because it holds all that color information in there.
Okay.
And that way, then you're able to do quick and easy selections like this. It's much easier to grab onto. So I'll grab the grass, for instance, and then I'll do a little blur radius here, just kind of clean up my key. This is called a qualifier. And what you're doing is you're keying a certain color. So from there, I'm going to turn off the highlight. And from here, I can sway the colors however I want. I can take the grass and start making it way more green.
Look at that. Whoa.
Right?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so you can be like, yeah, nice and lush outside. If they're like, nah, we want it to look, you know, dead and burnt outside or what have you. So you can really start to manipulate the image.
Yeah, that's massive, dude. That's a
pretty cool.
Change.
Pretty cool. So let's say we go with green grass, and then you just kind of want to play that down. So you just put the shot in loop, and you're like, okay, there's our car moving through the scene with our nice green grass. You can
add another node and have that focus just on the truck.
Absolutely.
Or another node just to focus on the sky.
Absolutely. So let's just grab the sky real quick.
So these are all layers. So you're layering layer upon layer of color work per clip.
Absolutely. So from here, I can make the skies more blue, right? So instantly you have bluer skies, greener grass. It just starts to feel like a different world, right? From where we started.
Totally.
Sometimes a lot of the guys, you know, so in like a feature, like if you're grading like the Joker or something, you're going to see it's going to be loaded on every single shot. We have a bunch of color science packed in there, but at the same time, it's going to be loaded up with lots of qualifiers and many power windows. So this is what a power window looks like. So I have this tool here. You can do boxes, all the different types of shapes you can hand draw. But a power window allows you to do a certain selection of the image. You can soften that out. I can just brighten just the center of the truck.
Look at how quick this is.
People like, what's that?
This is so fast.
It's quick, man. It's super quick.
Yeah, it works so fast, and you see it right there.
Yeah.
I love it.
So let's say that they're like, you know, it's a pretty wide opening shot, but I feel like my eye's a little bit distracted. And so you say, okay, well, here, let's tighten up where the eye is focusing. So I'll go here and say add node, add outside node. And so you can use this highlight tool to see kind of like what the selection's doing.
Oh,
so
look at that.
On this outside here, I just want to pull it down a bit. So I can pull down the outside. Right? It starts to give some depth and shape to the image. So it doesn't feel so 2D plain. It starts to feel a little bit more 3D.
Yeah, I see what you did. And it really does focus you up on that center divide there, doesn't it?
Yeah, big time. So, you know, you start to use these different types of tools. Now, I'll say this. You can go crazy and you can make one shot look absolutely stellar. But the whole goal of color correction is to create a world and to be able to make it feel as consistent as possible. So you don't want to go too crazy on one shot and then get to another clip and be like, I can't make that match, you know? So you want to do things, you kind of want to get like a nice solid bounce pass in and then start to go back in after the whole thing kind of flows and matches and then start tightening up the shot. So you got to take multiple passes at it, if you will.
Fantastic. I didn't realize so many layers went into this type of coloring. Obviously, I should have known, but you know, and in something like Lumetri Color in Adobe, you're dealing just with like an adjustment layer. I guess you can stack them, but then it doesn't separate things out like this did. You know, when you qualify, it doesn't have the qualifiers that this has.
Right. Yeah. And it's cool. I mean, if you want to stay organized, you know, you can go up here and say node label. You can call this grass. Right. You can.
I mean, maybe it does have it, but I just don't know it. You know what I mean? Maybe.
Yeah. No, totally. Sure. I'm sure. Sky here. You'll start to see that a lot of tutorial videos online. They'll go through and kind of label things up to help you stay more organized. Once you kind of get familiarized with like the little icons and things underneath stuff, you kind of know what you're looking at, you know, pretty quickly. But so let's do some of the tracker stuff. This stuff is pretty cool. For instance, right? I'm just going to quickly grade it real quick so we can dive into the, depending on, I'll blow the sky a little bit. All right, so you can quickly transform that. So that's where it started. That's where we're landing just for now. You can kind of sweeten up the picture a little bit, adjusting the highlights, and so just put a little more color on them. So let's say that the client's like, no, I want to see more into his face. And right now your eye is kind of more drawn to this brighter spot in the backgrounds and so you're like, no, let's shape that a little bit. Okay. You would want to put on, so you click the power window. If you're not seeing it, just because you're not, displaying that tool. So just say, I want to display the power window.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
You want to start to shape that onto his face here. And what's cool is this next tab over is the tracker. And what that'll do is you can start to track that window onto his face.
Look at that.
So now my grade, so whatever I do, so if I brighten up his face here.
Look at that.
I can do just that.
Added a light to the scene pretty much.
Basically, and we do that. We'll relight scenes all the time with power windows. We'll put, it'll be like 20 nodes or something, and we've relit the entire thing so that it has shape. You're looking at a specific spot of the image and so on.
That was impressive.
Here, right? Pretty cool. From there, you can go and say like add nodes. So let's say add the outside node, and then I'm just going to bring down the background. And before you know it, you're really more focusing on him and less on the background.
Totally, I see that. It is, and it does get shadowy on left or right side of his face, but that light really makes a difference, doesn't it? It's
really,
really,
and you can go in and just keep refining, the tools here, and just keep
really
softening
popped
them
him
out.
out, though, hasn't it? It's really done a neat job. It's like you had, it's essentially adds a bounce.
It really does. Yeah. Little kicker light, little bounce car. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. This runs it right on him. That's awesome, man.
So a lot of times too, I mean, there's not really a show out there that doesn't have a beauty pass to it. So we do a lot of beauty. Those actors pay some big money, so. Hey, it's the product, man. It's the brand. The product, baby. Especially in commercials, it has to look like a moving magazine, right? That's what it has to look like.
It's the moving Photoshop version.
Exactly. So what you can do using the qualifier. So there's ways to qualify, the green grass and the skies and whatever. But you can also go in and grab his skin. I'm just using Shift H here. It's also the same highlight tool. If I click that, you can see it there. Shift H is the shortcut. So you can really tighten up on his skin there.
You're using a blur radius.
What's that?
The blur radius? Is that what you just used?
Yeah, I adjust the blur radius because otherwise, here, if I zero it out, you'll start to see the chatter. You see all that chatter?
So that's kind of a mask?
It is. It's exactly a mask. And you're just going to soften out that mask.
Okay.
So if I start to do that, the chatter, there's still chatter in there, but it's much smoother, right?
I see. Yeah.
And you can really start to get in and tighten it. If you started, you spent a little time, going in on the shadows and so on, and really spent a good time making it look nice. What you can do here is we have this thing. You can change his skin, right? I can change him to make him look
gosh.
right. So you can do whatever.
It's all of a sudden it's something out of the X-Men.
There you go. Exactly. So if you're trying to match up flesh tones, right? Shot to shot, and you're like, yo, can you fix the skin or whatever? You have that capability. If you want to put a little beauty pass on them, I'm going to over accentuate it just so you can see it more. But this mid-tone detail, I can really start to, shave 10 years off his life right there.
It looks like DaVinci does some really cool things with color. And it does look like they started off like this was their bread and butter, right? This was it.
This was it. This was it. You really only had like the media pool, the color tab, and the delivery page.
Well, Alex, man, this has been an incredible dive in. It's been deeper than I thought it was going to be within the realm of DaVinci Resolve. And the color work that you're doing is pretty fantastic. I'm super excited to see this next film that we're diving into.
Yeah.
What you work on with that. And man, I appreciate your time. I love to see that you've gotten so professional within the realm. I love to see that you're loving what you're doing, and that's a really cool aspect of this. And it's
very cool.
It's heartwarming, and I appreciate your time being on here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.